I thought I understood dating. I thought I understood what women went through, what men had easy, and exactly who was to blame for the toxic hellscape that modern romance had become. Then I created a fake male Tinder profile, average-looking guy, decent job, normal photos, just to prove my theories about male privilege and dating. 3 weeks later, I was sitting on my bathroom floor at 2 in the morning, crying over the messages I'd received. Or rather, the messages I hadn't received. My name is Jessica, and this is the story of how catfishing as a man on Tinder destroyed every assumption I had about dating, privilege, and what it actually means to be invisible. This is my confession about the day I realized the narrative I'd been pushing for years was a lie. Let me be clear about who I was before this experiment. Who I thought I was. I was a 29-year-old feminist writer living in Brooklyn. I had a master's degree in gender studies from Columbia. I wrote think pieces for online magazines about toxic masculinity, male privilege, and the patriarchy. My Twitter bio literally said, "Smashing the patriarchy one tweet at a time." I'd written dozens of articles about dating inequality. About how men had it so easy on dating apps. About how women were drowning in matches while choosing the best options, and how men just had to exist to get attention. About how male privilege extended even into our swipe-right culture. My most viral article was titled, "Why Dating Apps Prove Male Privilege is Real." It got 50,000 shares. In it, I argued that men faced virtually no barriers in online dating, that their gender alone opened doors, that they couldn't possibly understand the objectification women faced. I'd been on Tinder for 4 years. My profile got hundreds of matches. My inbox was constantly full. Sure, a lot of the messages were crude or weird, but I had options. Endless options. I could be picky. I could ignore 90% of my matches and still have dozens of conversations going. Meanwhile, I'd listen to male friends complain about getting no matches, about sending hundreds of messages into the void, about feeling invisible. And honestly? I didn't believe them. Not really. Maybe if you were more interesting in your profile, I'd suggest. Maybe if your photos were better. Maybe if you worked on yourself instead of complaining. I thought they were exaggerating. Making excuses. Failing to acknowledge their own privilege. Then my friend Marcus, a software engineer, showed me his Tinder after 3 months of active use. 12 matches. 12. Half of them never responded. Of the ones who did, 3 conversations fizzled after 2 messages. This has to be an anomaly, I told him. You're just not presenting yourself well. Jess, he said tiredly, I've tried everything. Professional photos. Funny bio. Serious bio. No bio. It doesn't matter. I'm invisible. I didn't believe him. Marcus was a good guy, decent looking, stable job, funny, kind. Surely he was doing something wrong. That conversation planted a seed. What if I could prove it? What if I could show that men's struggles in dating were just a matter of effort, of presentation, of not being entitled jerks? I decided to create an experiment. I'd make a fake male profile, average guy, age 30, decent but not model quality photos, and I'd craft the perfect profile. Witty but not trying too hard. Interests that showed depth. Photos that showed personality. I'd prove that a good guy with a good profile would do just fine. I had no idea I was about to have my worldview shattered. I spent 2 weeks preparing. I needed this to be scientific, rigorous, unimpeachable. I used photos of my cousin's friend Jake. With his permission, he thought it was hilarious. Jake was conventionally attractive but not stunning. Maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10. Brown hair, decent smile, average build. Regular guy. I created a profile that was, objectively, excellent. I spent hours on it. Bio * software developer who codes by day and attempts to cook by night. Usually the smoke alarm wins. Lover of hiking, terrible puns, and dogs who think they're lap dogs. Looking for someone who can teach me why my sourdough starter hates me. Perfect, right? Funny, self-deprecating, showing interests and personality. Nothing creepy or aggressive. Just a normal, likable guy. Photos * 5 pictures. One clear face shot smiling. One hiking photo showing activity. One with his actual dog. One at a wedding showing social proof. One casual mirror selfie that wasn't douchey. I had everything these dating coaches say men need. Good photos. Engaging bio. Variety. Personality. I set the age range to 25 to 35, distance to 10 miles. Same parameters I used on my real profile. Then I started swiping right. Liberally. Not on everyone, I was selective like I actually was, choosing women who seemed interesting, had filled out profiles, had clear photos. I swiped right on probably 60% of profiles I saw. The same percentage that swiped right on my real female profile, I'd guess. And then I waited. The first hour, 0 matches. I laughed it off. It takes time for the algorithm to show you. First day, 2 matches. 2. Out of probably 150 right swipes. I told myself it was early. The algorithm needed time. First week, 11 matches total. I stared at that number in disbelief. 11 matches in a week of active swiping? My female profile got that in an hour. But okay, quality over quantity, right? I had 11 matches. Surely I could turn those into conversations. I started messaging. And this is where everything I believed began to crumble. I crafted perfect opening messages. Personalized to each profile, referencing something specific they'd mentioned, asking engaging questions. The kind of messages I'd written articles saying men should send. Match number 1, Sarah, had a photo at Machu Picchu. Me * Machu Picchu. That's been on my bucket list forever. Did you do the full Inca Trail or the shorter trek? Also, did you immediately get altitude sickness like I assume I would? No response. Ever. Match number 2, Emma, mentioned loving The Office. Me * okay, important question, is Jim actually kind of a jerk, or am I overthinking a sitcom? Also, what's your take on the final season, redemption arc or too little too late? Delivered. Read. No response. I sent thoughtful, funny, engaging messages to all 11 matches. 8 of them never responded at all. 2 responded once and then ghosted. 1 had a 3-message exchange and then unmatched. I was baffled. These were good messages. Way better than half the stuff I received on my female profile, which I responded to anyway. Week 2, 8 new matches. Continued swiping, hundreds more right swipes. Same pattern. Most didn't respond. Those who did, disappeared after 1 message. I started trying different approaches. Simple, hey. How's your week going? No response. Funny, I see you like hiking. On a scale of 1 to 10, how judgmental will you be about my sea level conditioning? No response. Complimentary, your photos from Japan are incredible. How long were you there? No response. It didn't matter what I said. The messages went into a void. By week 3, I had 24 total matches out of approximately 800 right swipes. That's a 3% match rate. 3%. And of those 24 matches, I'd had exactly 2 actual conversations that lasted more than 5 messages. 2. I started to feel something I'd never felt on a dating app, desperate. Invisible. Worthless. I found myself swiping right more liberally, dropping my standards. Maybe if I just cast a wider net? I started crafting even more perfect messages, spending 15 minutes on each one. I started double messaging when people didn't respond, something I'd written articles condemning men for. Hey, I know you're probably busy, but I'd love to hear about your Thailand trip. Nothing. I started taking the rejections personally. What was wrong with Jake's profile? What was wrong with me? Was I not funny enough? Not interesting enough? And then it hit me, this is what average men experience. Every single day. This crushing invisibility. This feeling that no matter what you do, how clever you are, how much effort you put in, you simply don't matter. Week 4, I started paying attention to the women I was matching with. Really paying attention. I matched with a woman named Ashley. Her profile was sparse, 3 photos, all heavily filtered selfies, no bio. My female profile would have swiped left immediately. But as Jake? I was grateful for the match. I sent her a thoughtful message asking about her dog in one photo. Hey, she responded 6 hours later. Just hey. On my female profile, if a guy responded with just hey, I'd unmatch immediately. I'd written a whole Twitter thread about how low effort that was, how it showed men weren't even trying. But as Jake? I was excited to get any response at all. Hey. Your golden retriever is adorable. What's their name? I replied immediately. Delivered. Read. No response. 3 days later, Max. That's it. Just Max. I swallowed my frustration and tried again. Max is a great name. How long have you had him? No response. Ever. This happened over and over. Women matching and then putting in 0 effort. Women who would have unmatched a man for the same behavior they were exhibiting. I matched with Brittany, who had an actually filled out profile. She liked yoga, travel, and deep conversations. Perfect. I sent a message about her recent trip to Portugal. Thanks, she responded. I asked a follow-up question about Lisbon. It was nice. It was like pulling teeth. Every exchange required me to carry the entire conversation while she gave one-word answers. On my female profile, men wrote paragraphs trying to impress me. They asked questions, showed genuine interest, tried to be engaging. As Jake, I was the only one trying. The only one putting in any effort. And I was supposed to be grateful for these breadcrumbs of attention. I started noticing patterns. Women who matched and never messaged first. Ever. Women who clearly matched just for validation, with no intention of talking. Women who seemed to have hundreds of conversations going and treated each match as disposable. Women who unmatched mid-conversation for no apparent reason. Women whose profiles demanded height requirements, income levels, specific physical attributes, things I'd have called preferences on female profiles but now seemed harsh and shallow. And the thing that broke me, I realized I was one of these women. On my real profile, I had 200+ matches I'd never bothered responding to. Guys who'd sent thoughtful messages into my void. Guys who I'd matched with for an ego boost and then forgotten about. I'd treated them exactly how Jake was being treated. Like they were invisible. Disposable. Not worth the effort. Week 5, something inside me snapped. I'd been running this experiment for over a month. I'd swiped right approximately 1,500 times. I had 31 total matches. 31. That's about a 2% match rate. I'd sent thoughtful messages to all 31. 8 never responded. 12 responded once and ghosted. 7 had brief exchanges that went nowhere. 3 unmatched mid-conversation. I had exactly one woman, Rachel, who was actually having a real conversation with me. 1. After 5 weeks and 1,500 right swipes. Meanwhile, my female profile had gotten 47 new matches that week alone without me even opening the app. I was sitting on my couch, staring at Jake's empty inbox, and I just started crying. Not for Jake. For every man I'd dismissed. Every guy friend I'd told, "You're probably doing something wrong," when he complained about dating. Every Twitter argument where I'd insisted male privilege made dating easier for men. I'd been so wrong. So incredibly, devastatingly wrong. The male experience of modern dating wasn't privilege. It was systematic devaluation. It was sending your best effort into a void and getting nothing back. It was being treated as if you had to prove your basic humanity before anyone would grant you 5 minutes of conversation. It was competing with hundreds of other men for the attention of women who had unlimited options and zero incentive to invest in any single match. It was watching women with blank profiles and poor photos get matches and attention that you, with your carefully crafted profile and genuine messages, could never get. I called Marcus. "I'm sorry," I said immediately when he picked up. "For what?" "For not believing you. For thinking you were exaggerating. For acting like your struggles weren't real." There was a long pause. "You did the experiment?" "Yeah. And?" "You were right. About everything." "I'm so sorry." He was quiet for a moment. "Do you know what the worst part is, Jess? It's not the rejection. It's that no one believes us. Every time we talk about how brutal dating is for average men, we're told we're entitled, we're whining, we need to work on ourselves. Like our experience isn't valid." "I know. I was one of those people telling you that." "Yeah. You were." We talked for 2 hours. He explained what I'd just experienced from the inside, the gradual erosion of self-worth, the feeling of being fundamentally undesirable, the way it colors your entire view of your value as a person. When I hung up, I opened my laptop and looked at all my published articles about male privilege and dating. And I felt sick. I spent the next week doing something I'd never done. I actually listened to men. I joined online forums where men discussed their dating experiences. Not the toxic spaces, the regular ones, where normal guys shared their frustrations. The stories were heartbreaking. Men who'd been on apps for years with almost no matches. Men who'd given up entirely. Men who'd sent thousands of thoughtful messages into the void. Men who felt fundamentally unlovable because the metrics of modern dating told them they were worthless. And the response from society? Work on yourself. Maybe you're not as great as you think. Women don't owe you anything. All technically true. But also completely missing the point. No one owed Jake anything either. But the difference between his experience and my female profile's experience wasn't about worth or effort or quality. It was about a fundamentally imbalanced system that I'd been defending for years. I looked at my own behavior on Tinder with new eyes. I had 200+ matches sitting there. Men who'd sent nice messages. Men who were probably checking daily to see if I'd responded. Men who I'd thoughtlessly ignored because I had so many options. I went through my female profile's messages and actually read them. "Hey. I saw you like hiking. I just got back from the Adirondacks, have you been? Your profile made me laugh. Also, crucial question, what's your take on pineapple on pizza? I noticed you're into photography. I'm trying to learn, any camera recommendations for a beginner?" These were good messages. Thoughtful, personalized, engaging. And I'd ignored them because I was drowning in attention and could afford to be dismissive. On the other side, as Jake, I would have been thrilled to receive any of these. The asymmetry was staggering. I started responding to the men I'd ignored. I had actual conversations. And you know what? Most of them were perfectly nice, interesting people. They weren't worse than the men I'd chosen to respond to. They'd just been unlucky in the lottery of my attention. I knew I had to write about this. But I was terrified. My entire brand was built on feminist analysis of patriarchy. My followers expected me to condemn men, not empathize with them. If I published this, I'd be betraying my tribe. But I couldn't stay silent. Not after what I'd learned. I wrote an article titled "I Catfished as a Man on Tinder and I Apologize." I detailed the entire experiment. The numbers. The silence. The invisible labor men put into dating with almost no return. The way I'd been wrong about male privilege in modern dating. I wrote. I thought I understood dating inequality. I was wrong. While women face objectification and harassment, men face something equally destructive, systematic invisibility. The average man's experience on dating apps isn't privilege, it's devaluation on a massive scale. And I'm sorry for not believing that until now. I published it at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday and immediately wanted to delete it. By morning, it had 100,000 views. The response was split right down the middle. Half the comments, "Thank you for saying this. Finally someone gets it." Men sharing their stories. Thanking me for acknowledging their experience. Saying they felt seen for the first time. The other half, "You're betraying feminism." My feminist friends were furious. My Twitter mentions became a war zone. So one experiment and you're centering men now? Internalized misogyny is sad to see. Women have it worse and you're focusing on men's hurt feelings? One feminist writer I'd admired published a response titled, "Why Jessica's Catfishing Article is Dangerous MRA Propaganda." I lost 3,000 Twitter followers in a day. But I also gained 5,000 new ones. More importantly, I started having conversations I'd never had before. Real conversations with men about their experiences. And with women who were willing to examine their own behavior on dating apps. It's been 6 months since the experiment. I've had time to process what I learned. Here's what I got wrong. I thought privilege was simple. Men have it, women don't. But privilege is complicated. Women have privilege in dating markets. Men have privilege in corporate ones. Both experiences are real. I thought men complaining about dating were entitled. But wanting basic human connection and feeling systematically rejected isn't entitlement. It's pain. Valid pain. I thought the solution was for men to do better. But Jake did everything right. Perfect profile, thoughtful messages, genuine engagement. It didn't matter. The problem isn't individual men, it's a system where supply and demand create impossible dynamics. I thought feminism meant always centering women's experiences. But real equality means acknowledging everyone's struggles. Men's pain doesn't negate women's pain. Both can be true. I thought I was empathetic. But I'd only been empathetic to experiences that matched my worldview. Here's what I learned about myself. I'd been using my female dating privilege without acknowledging it existed. I'd been treating matches as disposable because I could. I'd been demanding men put in all the effort while I put in none. I'd been contributing to the exact dynamics that make dating miserable for everyone. I'd been a hypocrite, demanding men respect women's experiences while refusing to respect theirs. Here's what I'm doing differently. On my female profile, I actually respond to thoughtful messages. I put in effort. I initiate conversations. I treat matches like human beings rather than options. In my writing, I acknowledge complexity. Men and women both struggle in modern dating. Different struggles, both valid. I listen now. Really listen. When men share their experiences, I don't immediately dismiss them or defend women. I just listen. I call out toxic behavior on both sides. Women who match for validation and never respond. Men who lash out when rejected. Both are problems. If you're a woman on dating apps, I'm asking you to think about your behavior. When you match with someone, are you treating them like a human being? Are you putting in effort? Or are you just collecting matches for validation? Those men sending you messages? They're people. They spent time crafting those messages. They're hoping. The least you can do is respond, or unmatch if you're not interested. If you're a man struggling with dating apps, I see you now. Your experience is valid. You're not crazy or entitled for feeling invisible. The system is brutal for average men in ways society doesn't want to acknowledge. But please don't let it make you bitter. Some of us are learning. Some of us are changing our behavior. Don't give up on connection. If you're anyone who talks about dating dynamics, I'm asking you to embrace complexity. Women face harassment and objectification. Men face invisibility and rejection. Both experiences are real and valid and worthy of empathy. The dating market is broken for everyone, just in different ways. I spent years being certain I understood everything about gender and dating. 1 month as Jake taught me I understood almost nothing. The best thing I ever did was have my worldview shattered. Because on the other side of that shattering, I found something I'd lost, genuine empathy. I'm Jessica, and I'm learning, at 29 years old, that being wrong and admitting it is more powerful than being confidently incorrect for years. My fake profile taught me more about equality than my master's degree ever did. Have you experienced dating app fatigue? Do you think the dynamics I described are real, or am I missing something? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more honest conversations about gender, dating, and challenging our assumptions.